lifestyle has caught fire, and we talk about the rewards and challenges of it. This is the Wandering Worker Podcast with Matt Lloyd.
Welcome to the Wandering Worker Podcast. I am your host, Matt Lloyd. The Wandering Worker Podcast is powered by Magic Apple Technology, where we've been saving good businesses from bad phone systems since 2008. Whether you're tuning in from the comfort of your home office, a cafe on the corner, or exploring a new corner of the world, this podcast is your compass to navigate the ever-evolving landscape of remote work. We'll uncover invaluable insights, share personal stories, and connect with experts that have mastered the art of wandering and while working. My guest today is Sean Duhig. Sean is a valued member of the Magic Apple team and a new graduate of Middle Tennessee State University. Sean, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing great, buddy. Thank you for being on. So before we get started and everything, we do a quick little 5 questions. So these are just rapid questions. As soon as I give it to you, try not to think too hard about it, okay? So question 1, do you have any nicknames?
Mostly, I've been going by my last name a lot of my life, playing sports and being in the military. So
just Duhig?
Yeah, a lot of
just
times.
Just Duhig? No, what's up, Hig? None of that? Just Duhig?
People mess it up a lot of times, like Dewey, Duhig. I don't know. It's hard to say my last name, I guess.
Yeah, for like 5 letters. It's like, how do you throw those together? What fictional place would you most like to go?
Fictional place? I don't know. I think the first time I hear that, Narnia.
Yeah, there we go. Is that the only fictional place you know?
I don't know. Maybe Hogwarts.
All right, question 3. Who inspires you to be better?
I'd say my dad. Actually, I looked to him for a lot of things where he's inspired me to always be a better person in my life. So
nice.
Yeah.
Good. I'm sure Dad will appreciate hearing that when he watches this. All right, question 4. What is the best compliment you've ever received? It can't be about your beard.
I've been told I'm a pretty hard worker, and I think that's kind of emulates who I am as a person. Is I always work hard. I might not always be the most talented person who I am, but I always work my hardest to get things done. So, well,
I think that's a good compliment, good trait. Last question: what is the best thing you got from one of your parents?
I'd have to say. Well, luckily I didn't get my dad's loss of hair yet, so it's probably the best thing that I think.
You probably just ruined this podcast with your dad. You know that.
Maybe I
did. Very good, very good. Okay, so tell us, just briefly introduce yourself. Tell us about your background. Tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, so originally from like the Chicagoland area. I grew up and went to high school there, but from there I ended up joining the military out of high school. Mm-hmm. I joined the Marine Corps, and from there I traveled multiple places around the country. Ended up mostly spending my time in North Carolina. From there, I met one of my best friends. He got out before me, so he was living in Nashville. Convinced me to move out here. That's how I ended up in the Nashville, Middle Tennessee area.
I didn't realize that. That's cool.
Yeah, so he convinced me to move out here. And then from here, I went to school at MTSU, and I've kind of never looked back from that. So that's kind of how I ended up here. Other than that, getting into the whole sales world, my brother, he's about 4 years older than me. He's always been kind of also another role model of mine. Mm-hmm. He's in the sales world as well, and I've looked at his job, and he's told me about his job, and I've always kind of liked what he had to say about that. So that's what kind of brought me into the sales world as well. Got you.
Yeah, we met. Tell us a little bit about the college program where we met.
Yeah, so actually MTSU is one of the coolest programs I've ever heard of, because when I was explaining this to my brother, he's like, wow, I wish I had that. They have actually a professional selling program that specifically teaches people, because a lot of colleges will have marketing programs where they'll have a sales class here and there. They have a focus in actual professional selling where they'll go through role plays of selling to customers, different people, and different organizations, stuff like that. So they actually have a mentorship program where they work with local and even some higher corporations, but local representatives in the Nashville area that will come in and partner up with, or they'll pair you up with a mentor and a mentee, where they'll just kind of work with you to be a better sales representative as well.
Yeah, that's kind of where we met. We were paired up together, and that
exactly.
I'm a part of that program, and it's super cool. Y'all even do collegiate competitions.
Yeah,
and do until it's.
I've been involved in a few of those, actually.
Yeah.
There's a national Redbird selling event that we were part of. We didn't get a place in that one. The year before, our sales team, we actually won the national collegiate sales program there. So that was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's super neat. So, you're fairly new in your career. I mean, you literally graduated last Saturday, right?
Correct.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd say that's about as new as you could possibly be.
Yeah.
So what are some things that, with your time in the military and everything that you've got to this point, what are some things that, some challenges that you've kind of had to overcome a little bit in this transition from military to sales to graduating? What are some of the challenges you've seen?
Well, just a transitioning from the military to a more lax work environment, kind of like seeing the different roles. Like, in the military, who's your superior, and you have to address it that way. Where I can see as then going to college, where it's kind of like a little more free there. Where I think that also with that, I can see how college students would go from college into the workplace and not necessarily know how to work that. Hey, this is my boss, not just someone I kind of chit chat with and stuff at times. Where maybe it is that way. It's kind of that can be difficult at times. I think from what I've seen.
So. You're at a pivotal point. I think this is the other thing, the other reason I wanted to talk to you, which I think is super important for everybody to hear, is there's nobody newer into the workforce than you at this point. You are a freshly graduated, freshly minted sales professional, graduated, college graduated guy. And so you're the guy that everybody's wanting to hire, somebody like you, right? And you're the people that companies like mine are trying to attract and those type things. The purpose of this podcast is talking about being a remote worker and not having to come to an office every day. How important is that actually to you? And how important was that in your decision? And how important is it with other people that your same age?
It's actually huge because, it gives you just the ability to really choose having the ability to have that remote working capability. It puts you as an employer steps above any other one else, where it's hey, I have to be there 9 to 5 every single day in a office environment, because it kind of limits you. And as a younger person, typically coming out of college, they want to explore, they want to go out and see things and experience life while they're younger. And being able to do that with a remote working capability, that it puts you way above any other opportunity that would be, hey, I have to be in this office 9 to 5. I can't get off early on Friday to go see my family and stuff. Where I've even had over the summer where I've been working a little bit, where I had a wedding where I had to go home on a Friday. So I flew out on Thursday night, worked Friday, and then had to go to the wedding. So I was able to do that, which is something that's really important for me. But I would say that's one of the top priorities that I've kind of put in place for my job seeking.
And would you say that's fairly common around everybody your age as they're graduating, that's something that, does everybody want that? Is that something they're all looking for?
I would say that it's a majority, I would say 90% of people are looking for some sort of hybrid, at least hybrid.
At least a hybrid, so they get a little bit more flexibility. Exactly. Sure, that makes sense. So let me ask you this. So as an employer, I look out and I see other employers and other business owners, and they have concerns around working remotely, and a lot of that seems to result is, well, they're not going to work as hard, they're not going to do as much. Is that, what do you like? Do you feel like there's some truth to that? Do you feel like that is an unfair assumption for an employer to make about remote work?
It really depends on the actual worker themselves. I can see that, but I see that. I know that a lot of people waste time around the office, kind of just going around taking breaks here and there because they don't want to be there. They're not getting stuff done. Whereas I know that if I sit down and I have an office in my home where I remote work, where I'm just focused on that, I may go take 10, 15-minute breaks, but I'm working that whole time. It just, I can see it being, some people might be concerned about that, but also being micromanaged causes people to kind of not want to do the work.
Right, and micromanaging aside, nobody likes being micromanaged, but there is that concept. There is the step above. It's just control and accountability. How do you maintain that? What are some ways that you would say, say you came to somebody and the guy goes, well, I'm open to that, but how do I know that you're working?
Yeah, there's abilities to, even with your tracking systems like your CRM and stuff, you can track to see what kind of work's getting done. And if they're not keeping up with that, you can see, all right, this guy's not doing the work. We need to get rid of this guy. Or this guy is doing the work. We can keep him.
The point is, is that most everything is online or some kind of, software-based something that you're using to run your business that you're able to go in and see some kind of reporting on it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, there's thousands of choices that you go out there and do to take care of those little pieces and parts. Okay. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
5 years from now?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully be in some sort of management position here. I would like to, because obviously I love sales, but I think a management role would be something where I would want to be like maybe director or something like of a sales role. I just don't see myself as always constantly being at like the selling level. I'd like to teach people like what I've learned as a salesman as well.
Sure, that makes sense. Yeah. So in that role, how would you maintain the accountability? How would you maintain culture and that kind of stuff? How would you see yourself doing that?
So for like when I was in the military, I kind of like got a rude awakening of like how my management, I guess, which would be my superiors. They kind of treated us poorly, where they would yell at us and micromanage us, do stuff like that, where I hated it. And I kind of saw myself starting to do that when I became like a superior to, like I had peers underneath me, and they didn't respond very well to it. And then I'd like have a reawakening. I'm like, okay, this is not how people respond to that. You need to be open to
I didn't like it, so why would they like that?
Yeah, so I kind of had to correct myself on that, where I'm like, okay, well, I definitely want to be someone who's open. You can talk to me about anything. Like, hey, if you think this works better that way, and I would want to have like a very open communication line with the people below me, like, or the people that I'm managing and stuff as well, because I think that's like key to being a good manager. Essentially,
makes sense. So currently at Magic Apple, you're in an SDR/BDR role. So your business development, you're making phone calls. Tell us a little bit about your day to day.
So day to day, it's a lot of phone calls. I'll say that. A lot of emails getting sent out, checking in to make sure, and I would say it's somewhat meticulous, where you have to like make sure you're checking in with certain things, where it's just making these contacts with potential customers, because these people for the most part, they're not expecting you to be calling them. They're not expecting you to be reaching out to them. So you got to find a way to kind of sneak your way into there to say like, hey, I wouldn't want to say sneak, but maybe pique their interest to say, hey, I am worth your time to listen to me. So that's the hardest part about that is like just, hey, I'm worth 5 minutes of your time to listen to me.
Yeah, no, yeah, and I agree that I think that's a good approach. So when you're talking to these guys and you get somebody on the phone, what would you say some of the key benefits to working remotely are for them?
I mean, one of the things we were talking about earlier is that it attracts some of the best candidates for your company as well. People want to work remotely, so that will allow you to get better candidates for your company, as well as it just makes your employees happier as well. Those are just two things that I could think.
Got you. And when we were talking about it, we were approaching it from the standpoint of some of the technology and the tools that are around it, right? What have you noticed when you are talking, and what you've learned since you've been here? What are some of the big key components of that technology that are beneficial?
For the working remotely is that, part of what we have for through Magic Apple is working remotely. You have that soft phone app where you can work, when you're working remotely, you get your one telephone that has both your soft phone app on there, where you can get phone calls that it's coming from work or if it's coming from your personal line. So that's key technology for that as well. Working remotely also allows you to just essentially, if you are not feeling very well, like earlier this week, I wasn't feeling very well.
You still sound like crap.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
but I was able to at least get some work done this week, whereas if I couldn't come in at all, I wouldn't get any work done. Where that, like having your laptop at home, just able to get some work done, like, hey, I need to send out a quick emails, do stuff like that, that's a real benefit, I think, as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. And still, being able to communicate like you're supposed to, be able to transfer calls if needed, all that kind of stuff, having all of that, no matter where you are, I think is pretty strong. If you were to give advice to an entrepreneur that is considering or recruiting guys like you, what would you tell them?
I would say offering that remote capability is going to be your first step of getting those best quality candidates there, because having that offered, I don't think I know a single person who's like, I need to find a place that's offering just in the office. I need that.
Yeah, I really want a cube.
Yeah.
What's my cube look like?
Exactly. So that's going to be your first step in getting, having the most wide range of candidates right there by having the remote access, remote capabilities. And then I guess it really is a key benefit, and you can always track that as well. So,
what would you say is the biggest negative or disadvantage to work, or the biggest challenge that you've seen working remotely?
That's a tough one. I think I see a lot of upside in it. Is the only thing.
Okay.
But like you said earlier, like there can be times where you can get distracted at home, things going on where, because like being in an office, maybe you might be a little more isolated, but being distracted sometimes. But I think it definitely, the pros outweigh the cons on that, where you can get distracted at home at times, but you just got to be disciplined enough to make that work for you, where you get in a little room to yourself and you just like don't be distracted by others. So
what about like internet and bandwidth and stuff like that? Have you had issues around that?
Not me personally, no. I could see that being if someone's out in middle of nowhere, they don't have access to internet. But most places nowadays, I think, do have pretty good access to internet.
Yeah.
So I don't see that being a huge issue.
So you really, and not that you had a long experienced time doing the remote work, but I mean, it's been a few months that you've been with us and been doing that. So you really haven't experienced any negatives from it. It's all been a fairly positive thing for you.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Cool. So where do you think the future of remote work is going? Where do you think, do you think it's going to be more of a hybrid model? Do you think you're going to see more and more companies going full remote? What do you think?
I would say, probably mostly a hybrid model, because people still do like having those buildings and stuff around. But when it comes to, because I mean, I don't know if you're seeing Nashville now, but like there's so many buildings. Right in the background. There's so many buildings and stuff. I feel like, and also property values. People aren't going to want to really buy offices, spaces and stuff as well. If you're starting a new company, why not have remote workers and have just maybe rent a cubicle you can meet for quarterly meetings, stuff like that.
Right.
It makes more sense for these newer companies not necessarily to just buy a office space where they can and then just have remote workers and then meet up somewhere where you can have a meeting, something like that. So I see that being a bigger thing with the rise in property values as well. Yeah,
I mean, because our rent is definitely one of our bigger bills.
Yeah.
Behind payroll, it's definitely one of our biggest bills a month. And if we don't need it, then why spend it? You know what I mean? If we can figure out how to keep our culture working and do all that without that space, without that cost, and why not? I mean, that sounds like a great plan. Hey, before we wrap up, I want to just say, thank you for being on, Sean. I really appreciate you taking the time, even when you're not feeling so great. And we did test him. He's COVID free, so this was a safe interview for everybody in the room. Unless it's a man cold, then we're probably all screwed. But that's okay. So, hey, if they want to reach out to you and get an appointment and talk about phones and remote work, how do they find you?
Yeah, so my email is sean@magicappletech.com. My phone number is 615-988-9007. And you can obviously just go on the website and request an appointment with us as well.
Awesome. Well, Sean, thank you again for being on. And that is another episode of The Wandering Worker. We hope you enjoyed hearing from our guest Sean today, and be sure to mark your calendar for our next episode, where we will continue to deep dive into the world of The Wandering Worker. We'd like to also thank our sponsor, Magic Apple, for bringing this episode today. If you're not thrilled with your business phone system or work from home experience, give us a shout. Give Sean a call. Maybe he can help you, since we've been helping people since 2008. Again, I'm Matt Lloyd, and we'll see you next time. And until then, enjoy the week.